Welcome to Disaster Preparedness class. This is class number 2. I'm delighted you're here, and there's my email address. Before we start, yes, this is being recorded. Yes, there is homework. Hopefully you had a chance to get some of that done. Questions in the chat. And then after class, if you have any very specific questions, I'm happy to answer them. We are talking about water tonight. Super, super important. I am thrilled you're here. Where do we get our water? 30% of it comes from the Tolt River watershed, which is up here in the northeast of Seattle. 70% comes from down further south, the Cedar River watershed. Obviously, our water is coming from a very long distance. We don't pull it out of any of the lakes. We don't have a desalination plant to use the water in the sound. So it comes a very long distance. That's a lot of pipes, and those pipes are very, very old. Water and sewer pipes are very old. Some of them are close to 100 years old. They have to travel a long distance. They go over a lot of territory, and that's why they break. Because when the earth shakes, pipes break. And that's all of them. Anything buried in the ground is going to be a problem. After an earthquake, this is what I want you to do. Check on people and pets around you and manage your utilities. We're going to talk about water today, and then we'll do electricity and gas next week. So managing your utilities, we're going to talk about water. You want to turn off water to the building you're in. This is a typical house, but it applies whether it's the apartment you're in, the tower, the business, because you're at work, whatever. You want to turn off the water. Typically, there's 2 places to turn off the water. In the house, other one is out on the street, which is what the city services would have access to. Ideally, you want to turn it off as close to the house as you can, because you don't know that this line on the outside of the property has been broken. So you want to turn it off in the building as much as you can. These are some of the water shutoff valves in buildings. The bottom left one happens to be the one in my house, and I would encourage you to make a makeshift tag. It doesn't have to be fancy, but make a tag, throw a piece of paper on there with a rubber band, whatever, and put something on there like water, turn off after an earthquake. It will really help you when you forget what you're supposed to be doing. So all of these are valves you might find in your house. Find it, show everybody in your household where it is, show them how to turn it off. Turn it off. It's not going to hurt your pipes or anything to turn the water off. Turn it back on so everybody understands how to do it, and then mark it so that people remember to turn that off after an earthquake. And the reason for that is you want to keep the water that's in your pipes clean. If the pipes outside your house will have broken, and they will, as soon as you turn the water on, you're just pulling in water and all the gunk around the pipes. So you really want to keep the water in your pipes clean, especially in your hot water tank if you have one of those. If you're looking at the street, this is what it might look like. They're all a little bit different. They're typically, at least for the single family houses, they're pretty deep in the ground. Mine is full of gunk and leaves and dirt. So you want to go in there and clean that out sometimes. This is sort of what you'll see once you open that manhole cover. Once you take that off and look down, you'll see this. So this is the valve, the one on the right here. That's the one that will turn the water off. This is what the homeowner can do. This is the city water shutoff. So we're interested in this, the one on the right. If that valve is in line with the pipe, the water is flowing. What you want to do is turn it crosswise to the pipe, and that will turn off the water out in the street so that none of that contaminated water that's out in the neighborhood gets into your pipes in your house. Seattle Public Utilities did a really good webinar, and I will send out the link. It's kind of long, pretty complicated. It's not in layman's terms by any stretch, which I was bummed by, but it will reinforce to you what it is I'm saying, because it really surprised me the first time I heard this. So I want you to know that I didn't make this up. This is straight out of the horse's mouth. So Seattle Public Utilities, these are their priorities after an earthquake. Fighting fires is number 1. Fires are very common after earthquakes because of gas leaks. Any water that they have running, they will use it to put out fires. Fortunately, we have water boats here in Seattle, so they can pull it right out of the lake and throw that on a fire. That's assuming fires close to the shore. Fighting fires, number 1. Their second priority is essential facilities like hospitals and emergency response centers. Any place where life-saving work is going on, they will get water, clean running water to those places second. The third one is other city facilities and essential businesses to get the city up and moving. Emergency drinking water is next. It is their fourth priority, but it is not to the typical homeowner. It is to very densely populated areas, whether those are areas that have been hit hard by the earthquake or towers. Those are going to be very important because folks in towers do not have much storage room, not like single family homes tend to. So densely populated areas, downtown Seattle, they're going to get drinking water way before anyone else. And then they will move to less densely populated areas. This is one of the ways that they might get water out to us. This is called a water buffalo. I think there's like 5 or 7 in the entire city. So this has to be filled up with water, moved into place. It has to be kept clean. It has to be monitored. And I think they put like a security guard sort of on it to crowd under control. So there's a few of those, but very, very few. Don't count on this thing being in your neighborhood. Emergency drinking water is very far down on the list, which is why we talk about water so much in the emergency preparedness world. And we really encourage folks to get water in their home. So how much water do you need? The general guidance is a gallon per person per day for 2 weeks and more if you can. You cannot have too much water. Here's a chart. On the left, figure out how many people in your household. On the right, write down how many gallons of water ideally you would have in your house. And then at the very bottom, don't forget your pets. 4 gallons to last 2 weeks, maybe more, maybe less, depending on the size of the pet. How am I supposed to store that much water? Tuck it wherever you can. Work with neighbors. Not everybody is going to be able to do this, but if most people do it, then maybe we can store enough to share with our neighbors that just really struggle with that. This is a good one. Can I drink water from streams, rivers, ponds, lakes, or mysterious springs? So after an earthquake, strangely, here in the city, water will just bubble up from the streets. No, you can't drink it. You cannot make any of that water drinkable in an urban setting. We just have too many chemicals. We have gas, we have oil, we have insecticides, pesticides, everything's running around and landing in our waters. So we are not chemists. We're not supposed to be chemists. We're not trying to make you a chemist. The ability to clean and disinfect that water is very, very difficult. So no, you cannot drink from those sources. Swimming pools or spas, you cannot make it clean enough to drink. There's too many chemicals put in there to begin with, more than likely. But if you can get it pseudo clean, get at least, the big particles and that kind of stuff out of it, you can use it for maybe washing clothes, washing something, washing dishes, cleaning, but do not drink that water. You just can't get it clean enough. Here's the hot water tanks we're going to talk about. I want to point out that the hot water heater drain is at the very bottom. And I'm pointing to this strap because I want to make sure that everybody's hot water tank is secured well, because that's a fabulous amount of water. That's like 40 to 60 gallons. That's an amazing amount of water. Make sure that it is secured well. It's called plumber's tape that I have on the screen. That is not adequate to secure your hot water tank. So if you think that that's there, get somebody to come look at your hot water tank and make sure it's secured well. Real quickly, toilets. You cannot drink or do anything really with the water that's in the bowl of the toilet, but you can use the tank water. Something I do want to caution you about, though, is if you drop one of those blue deodorizer things in your toilet, then you have eliminated your ability to use the water in the tank. Of the 2 pictures on the screen, I would recommend you get the clear plastic. It just seems to be a little bit stronger, holds up a little bit longer than the milky plastic. That's the only reason those pictures are up there. I want to point out a really good place to get water. This is a 6-pack of gallon jugs. So that's 6 gallons, and it's just over $5 at the chef store. Clorox. Clorox is really good for sanitizing water after it comes out of your hot water tank. And I'll be sending you information on that. And then it's also really good for cleaning, as we've all seen during the pandemic. So bleach, really good stuff. What you need to be careful of is bleach disintegrates over time. Like at 6 months, it's lost a decent amount of its punch. So I would suggest, unless you go through a lot of bleach in your household, consider buying bleach in smaller quantities and rotating through it faster. I have actually gone to buying that size of bleach because we just don't use that much. Smaller bottles of bleach, make sure that it is bleach that is good for disinfection. You can't use scented bleach, and splashless bleach is a question mark. I would stay away from both of those. No scents, no funky splashless kind of thing. You want regular or concentrated bleach, but you don't want anything else added to it so that you can use it to purify water. This little hose, I'm showing it. It happens to be a washing machine hose. Think about getting a small hose so that you could hook it to the bottom of your hot water tank. If you're lucky enough to have one, it would help a great deal to get the water out because it's very difficult to get bowl underneath that valve. Isn't the water heater clean to drink? Good question, Donna. For the most part, it is. There will be some sediment, especially when you first start draining the water. You'll get quite a bit of sediment, so it's a good idea to filter it. It's not a bad idea to add a couple drops of bleach. Again, I've got a handout for you. You can print it up and tape it to your hot water tank, and then it's there if you ever need it. If you're lucky enough to have space, or if you're in a tower and you're working with your property manager to figure out places to store water, this 55-gallon barrel is a really efficient way to store quite a bit of water. Not suitable for earthquake preparedness. I get questions about these, and actually I gave these out as Christmas presents multiple years ago. It's called a life straw, and it's meant to do exactly what the young lady's doing in the picture, is to drink water from a fresh running source. And you've got water with you all the time, theoretically. This is great if you are backpacking in the mountains somewhere or in a forest with clean running water. They work really, really well because they're really good at pulling out bacteria. What they don't do as well, and they don't do at all, is most of them do not pull out chemicals. They don't pull out oil or gasoline or any other kinds of chemicals. You need carbon for that. Typically, you need a charcoal filter. These are not good in a city setting. So be careful about giving people the illusion that this is a good idea, like I did. I gave them out at Christmas. And then the other one, a lot of folks have talked about this. This is just a liner that expands to fill your tubs. You can just keep putting water in it. They're amazing when you have a heads up that something's happening, like a hurricane, and you get a couple days notice, or a typhoon or something like that. You can fill up your tub ahead of time and then use that water to flush the toilets with. But because earthquakes do not give us a heads up, there's no warning, we don't get that. Frank, good question about a life straw pulling water from Lake Washington. No, sir, because the houseboats are going to hit one another, the regular boats are going to hit one another. There might be broken pipes right near the water's edge and they're spilling sewage into Lake Washington. You cannot make that water clean enough, even with a life straw, to drink. Do you have to rotate stored water? I will send out a handout on this. If you fill jugs yourself, you need to rotate it out every 6 months. If you buy bottled water, my understanding is expiration date is indefinite. As long as the water was put into the bottle the way the manufacturer says it was, it's good indefinitely. That's it for water. So we're going to move on to sanitation. This is another big topic. Again, when the earth shakes, pipes break, and that includes all of our sewer pipes and all of our water pipes. If you don't have running water coming into your house because you have turned it off on purpose, you cannot flush your toilets. All of us are going to have to pee and poo that first day after the earthquake. So how do we do it? That's what we're going to talk about. Unfortunately, sanitation failure is immediate. It happens right when the earthquake happens. It takes forever to fix it, because all of these pipes are underground. It is a long-term fix. We're talking months to years to have everyone's sewers, everyone's toilets working. So this is the guidance from the city about handling human waste. You need to double bag it. So 2 plastic bags. You need to store it safely outside in a designated bin. The only thing that should be in your poo bin is poo. Don't mix it with garbage. Don't mix it with compost. Get a bin and label it as this is human waste, and don't put anything else in there. That's the guidance from the city. They will pick it up eventually. You do not burn it. You do not bury it. We are not in that kind of environment. We live too close to the water sources to do that. So bag it up, tuck it away. They'll pick it up eventually. The limits for this system are going to be space, to put all of this, depending on how big your household is, and plastic bags. You have a couple options. You can use your own toilet. You can put the plastic bags in your toilet and use it just like you would, except obviously you're not going to flush. The smell that you get from pee and poo really comes from mixing the two products. By themselves, they're not as bad, but when you mix them, it gets really, really nasty. So another option I'm going to tell you about is the twin bucket toilet. This was developed and it's been tested and practiced in lots of spaces. It actually, I believe it came out of Christchurch, New Zealand, who had a massive earthquake about 10 or 20 years ago now. So we're going to talk about the twin bucket toilet. I'm going to play this video and then we'll talk.
So just like the name, twin bucket. If your household is coordinated enough to split up these two products, then you're in good shape. And the value of splitting them up is you can decrease the amount you have to store. Because again, this is a long-term problem. You're going to have to store the byproducts of our human bodies for a long time. So let's talk about urine. This one's the simple one. Urine is mostly water and mostly sterile. What you can do is pee in the bucket and throw it outside. Men, you can just go outside and pee on the ground. But if you'd like to sit down, this is how you do it. This is a pool noodle or pipe insulation, works really well. A long noodle, you're going to cut it in half, and you're going to make sure that there's a slit down the length side, just one side of it. This goes around the lip of the bucket, and it cushions it so that you're not sitting on the lip of a bucket. So this is your urine bucket, your pee bucket. It is good to go just like it is. So you sit down, you do your business, you pee into here. The toilet paper goes into the poo bucket. So we'll talk about that in a second. If you have any water that you're not planning on drinking, like it's coming out of a pool or a hot tub or something like that, you know that you cannot get it clean enough to drink, then add some water to this, swish it around, and throw it out on the ground. This will not hurt anything. So that's how you handle pee. This is the stuff we really are concerned about after big disasters. This is what makes people sick. This is where the pathogens are. So we are really, really concerned about containing this and keeping people healthy after a large disaster. So let's talk about how to do that. Again, pool noodle. You're going to cushion the rim. And for this one, we're going to put 2 bags over it. These are 2 plastic bags, just regular 13-gallon trash bags, kitchen trash bags. A 13-gallon bag fits really well inside a 5-gallon bucket. So I have 2 of them. I'm going to put it over the pool noodle just to make sure that stays nice and clean. And then I'm ready to go. So family members are going to sit down. They're going to use this poo bucket. They're going to sanitize their hands afterwards because we want everybody to stay nice and healthy. After every time you use these 2 plastic bags, you're going to put something on top. And this isn't something you need to store. You don't need to buy this stuff. You'll be able to figure out what you can use after a disaster. So some examples are kitty litter, sand, ashes, dirt, flour, a cake mix you're never going to make, baking soda, dry laundry detergent, anything like that. Just sprinkle it over the top. The reason for that is you're trying to dry out the poo and you're trying to keep down the smell. So there's nothing fancy about it. You're just trying to help the system be a little less icky. So family member sits down, does their business, sprinkles a little bit over the top, and you can use these 2 bags for a while, whether it's 1 day or 3 days, depending on the size of your family. You can use these 2 bags for a while so you won't run out, which is a really good part. So once you think this is full enough, and that's about halfway, you want to take both bags out. You're going to squeeze out all the air because, again, this system is really good because it reduces the amount that you have to store. So squeeze out all the air, tie it off, and you're going to put it outside. You're going to put it out in a compost bin, a recycle bin, your regular trash can, whatever you have where you can keep it safe from kids and rodents. So the goal is to put this outside and the city will pick it up eventually. That is the guidance to us. They will pick it up eventually. So the other things I have in the twin bucket toilet besides hand sanitizer and those plastic bags, disinfecting wipes. You want to keep this whole system really clean and keep your family healthy. Disposable gloves are a nice idea. toilet paper, maybe some feminine hygiene products if you want to store those in here. Another option is to buy a toilet seat cover. These can be found in camping stores. This is meant to fit on a 5-gallon bucket, so it works really well. One of the difficult things I think is that once you snap it onto one of these buckets, it's a little difficult to get off. So you need some decent hand strength, and it might rip the plastic bags, but things like this are available if you're interested.
So hopefully that made sense with the twin bucket toilet. The beauty is that you get to throw the pee out and you don't have to store it, and you're only having to deal with the poo, which really is much less volume than you would expect. Here's a couple really cool ideas. I think the folding chair, I think that would work super well. It seems very, very clean. It would fold up very flat. That's the end of class. I have a couple more things. I want to encourage you to come to a community earthquake exercise September 18th, which is this Saturday, 9 to 1, Maple Leaf Reservoir Park. You don't need to bring anything except maybe a chair and definitely raincoat because it looks like it's going to rain on us. This blue star is where we are in the park. We're in the southwest corner near the playground. St. Catherine of Siena Church and the Fairview Church have both allowed us to park. So if you have trouble finding parking on the street or in the neighborhood, those are really good spots. Please mark your calendar. I will send more information out about this tomorrow, but show up. We don't practice all that much, and this year has been a little wonky because of COVID. This weekend and the next are our only exercises this year. It would really behoove you to see the community emergency communication hubs in action, and that's what this will be. Class number 6 is actually when we talk about the emergency communication hubs. So they may not make sense to you, but honestly, once you see it in action, you'll think it's the most genius thing ever. They really are incredibly smart. It's a very elegant solution to community support after an earthquake. Next week, Wednesday, September 22nd, we're going to talk about utilities and then power outage lights. That's all I have for tonight. I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm here to answer questions.
And, after seeing your video, I don't know, maybe a year ago, I went out and bought 2 5-gallon buckets, and then I stacked them on top of each other, and now I can't get them apart. I even asked a friend who's a pretty, burly guy, and he couldn't get them apart either.
Wow.
So I think they heat or something.
Anybody got any suggestions? Mine get stuck all the time, but I always can get them undone.
You could try putting the outer bucket into hot water and putting like ice or something in the inner bucket, so you get the expand and contract.
That's a really good idea.
Yeah, I wonder if putting paper towel between them when you store them.
That's a really smart idea. Julie had a good idea. Just put your double plastic bags in each bucket when you store them. Work on your homework, and I will see you next week. Thanks, everybody.